All right, guys, headshots only in this video right here because I'm in the shower. And let me tell you, it feels good. But one of the nice things about a recirculating shower is we have unlimited hot water. So Snow's been in the shower for about 30 minutes. I couldn't get her out of there. She gets stuck in here like she does a lot. And now I'm in here, and this unlimited hot water from the recirculating shower is absolutely amazing. Hey guys, welcome to episode 3 on the recirculating shower. If you missed episode 1 or 2 on solar or air conditioning, go back and check those out. We also have some upcoming episodes on layout and planning of our van. We're also going to do one on electrics, plumbing, and then appliances and cooking. And if you guys have any other topics you'd like to cover or any questions, please leave those in the comments and we'll do our best to get back to those. And as always, please don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, and also hit that little notification bell so that you get alerted when we have some new episodes coming out. And also we have our travel series, so if you haven't tuned into that, check that as we travel across the US and eventually the world in our van, our tiny home on wheels. And now to what you guys are here for. Okay guys, I hope you appreciate the fancy diagram that I have here, but the first thing I wanted to show you is basically how the shower system works. So if we start with the shower diverter or mixer, that's basically the handle where you turn the shower on and control the temperature. So once the shower valve is turned on, basically the pressure in the system reduces because water starts coming out, which tells my pump to kick on. Once my pump kicks on, it's going to suck water from my 10-gallon tank, and there's a small pre-filter here that prevents any big stuff from getting into my pump. But my pump will turn on, it'll pull water from the tank, and it will push it through the system. So I have a huge filtration system here, and I'm going to go into the filtration system in detail. The cold water has a choice. It either goes up to the shower diverter as cold, or it goes through my heat exchanger, and this is basically a on-demand hot water heater. The cold water would go through there, it would get heated in there and come up to the shower diverter, and then I control the temperature of the hot and cold water through the mixer. And once I turn that on, the water comes out of the shower. Now it goes through the linear drain in the bottom of the shower. I do have some filtration material in there that catches hair and any other big stuff before it even goes out down into the drain. And then from the drain I have a P-trap in there, captures water so that gases and air and smell can't come back up into the van, and then that dumps into the 10-gallon tank. The water comes back in, and so thus the recirculation begins all over again. So the water just continues to circle through the entire system, through the filtration system, and comes back up where the water can be either heated or cold again. So that's kind of how that works. I'm going to show you in more detail about the system. So I'm going to show you the planning and the layout of how I arrived at the shower construction. I'm going to show you the plumbing, and then the filtration system, and finally I'm going to bring it all together and kind of show you an up-close look at the system that I have. So let's start with planning and layout. Layout is probably one of the most important things that you can do for your whole entire van build. So for those of you who've already got a van, maybe not so important, when we first started, people ask us what was the hardest part about the van build. This was probably it, the layout and design. We spent a lot of time up front planning and plotting what our layout would look like. And we're going to talk about more in this layout and design, but a bathroom, a functional bathroom with a shower and a toilet was very important for us. So basically the composting toilet slides up as close as it can to that wheel well. And then we needed room to maneuver when we're on the toilet on both sides of the toilet for the wall. And so I think our shower is about 30 or 31 inches wide, so it's fairly wide, and it runs the full width of the van. So that's kind of where we went with the design. Once we knew where the walls were, I crawled under the van to make sure that the plumbing, everything's going to be under chassis as it relates to that. So where's our drain going to pop out? Make sure there's no beams or struts or anything else in the way of doing that. And so once we kind of had that layout confirmed as to where we could put it, we went ahead and we started building the walls that framed the bathroom. And those were built out of half-inch birch plywood. And so very simple wall construction, but very sturdy. We framed those in, kind of set the toilet in, and yeah, we had a workable space now to build our wet room for the shower. So now I'm kind of going to go into the shower construction portion of this, and so I'll tell you how I built this from the ground up. So keep in mind, I've already got the wet room, quote unquote, framed by these 1/2-inch sheets of plywood. Now, a couple other things I had to keep in mind was the width of the doors on either end of the shower. Since our shower is in the middle of the van, it's basically a pass-through bathroom. That also meant that I had to contain the water in those doorways on both sides. A 4x4 on each side, and I'll show you a picture of that here so you can see it. And that kind of helps contain the water. That's also where the bottom of that door slides across. So in addition to the ply, I added those as well. Now, hardy backer board, 1/4 inch. It wasn't the cement kind, it was the fiber kind, but that gave me a good rigid base. And then on the rest of the floor and the walls, I used Durock ultralight foam board. Now this is a 1/2-inch board. It's got sort of like a thick layer of plastic on each side, and inside it's got foam. I love this stuff, guys. I'm not sure what you're using, but this is ultralight stuff, and this is kind of one of the ways I was able to build this bathroom and still keep my van light. I used that on the floor above the hardy backer board. Then I came across that on the floor with a Schulter Systems Ditra membrane, and I'll show you a picture of that. It's a mouthful, but it's stuff. It's sort of for setting tile on. It's anti-crack, but also a moisture membrane. I put that on top of the floor. In reality, on my floor, I have probably 2 or 3 moisture proofing systems, if you will, to stop any moisture from going down through the floor and leaking out of my wet room. All the joints I did per the manufacturer specification with the Durock tape. You can watch a video on how to do that. The linear drain that I have has sort of an inset, and so you drill I think it was an 1.5-inch hole or 2-inch hole through the bottom of the van, and that actually sits down in that frame set, and there's a method to seal it up, and so you make sure you seal that up real good, and that's how you get the floor. Now on top of that, the one thing I like about that Schulter system, that Dieter membrane, you're able to take your mud or whatever you call this stuff that you use for tile, and you're able to kind of shape a little bit of a slope into your shower floor. And then I have one solid piece of ceramic tile that fits in the bottom of the van. Absolutely love it. Again, it's one piece, so there's no way moisture can get in anywhere except around the edges. And again, I've got multiple protections against that, so feel very confident that that's dry. Shower bench seat, and then on the other side I have the composting toilet. So I framed those with 2x2 pine, and again I covered those seat covers with leaving 3/4-inch ply for, I think, for the bench seat. But in any event, and then on top of that I put the Durock. The whole entire room being surrounded with the Durock, the seat then was also sealed with the Durock. So under the bench, if you notice, I have a marine door that's used for boats or whatever, and so that's basically watertight. Under that bench is kind of a watertight area. That kind of sums up most of the construction. Then I have the doors. They're made by Stow-It, so you can Google that. In most cases, I've only seen one door. We have a door on each side of the bathroom, one on the bedroom side and one on the living room side, so that kind of gives us full closure in the bathroom. These doors are super cool and what gives us the ability to have a walk-through bathroom. When closed, they act as a good moisture barrier. They're frosted so you can't see through them, and then when you open them, as they roll back into their little canisters, they roll back, they kind of squeegee themselves off, so they're somewhat self-cleaning. And so when they squeegee themselves off, that water then just goes down into the drain. That door system, and you can Google these doors if you're interested in them, but not an endorser. I get no money from these guys, but I have 2 doors, so I want to tell you about them. But there's a rail on the top and there's a rail on the bottom, and the shower door kind of slides, is guided by those rails. Now on the one on the bottom, underneath that, I've put down a good bead of caulk on both sides so water can't get underneath can't get underneath those rails on either side. The way the door is designed, the door actually goes inside of those rails. So when the water hits it, it goes down and rolls down into the shower rather than kind of rolling over. So it's a pretty solid design. So far, we're real happy with them. Now, the other thing you might be thinking about is moisture is what about the humidity that's created, especially given that we take hot showers. There's no doubt there is steam and moisture that's created from the shower. We guard against that in two ways. Number one, when we insulated the van, the shell of the van, we did cover the entirety with Reflectus as a moisture barrier, so all the seams are taped. We do have a fairly good moisture barrier throughout the inside of the van behind the walls. Now, I'm sure that's not 100% fail proof. I'm sure moisture and condensation gets in behind there or whatever, but I do feel confident that we have an added protection in that. And then secondly, and I think this is a much bigger deal, is our fans and our circulation and ventilation. So in the bedroom we have a fan, and in the living room we have a fan. So if we put one blowing in and the other one blowing out, we get a pretty good wave, and there's a little gap across the top of that, each of those stoic doors, and so we get a pretty good airflow through that. And then, or we open a couple, we gap a couple of the front windows and turn the fan on from in the living room, and that also can give us some good ventilation and circulation. But even after we get out of the shower, we'll run the fans full blast and get that steam out of here quickly. Moving on, the next thing that I wanted to discuss was the plumbing. Shower head, it kind of fit the curvature of the van in our shower room. It had the removable spray head. It was kind of one piece. Body spray jets too. It had two of those. So we think it looks nice and it fits the space really well. You could use a normal shower head. You could use whatever you want. It come with a shower diverter, the mixer, and that's just simply a handle where you run both your hot and cold water supply into, and that's how you control the temperature. The linear shower drain, we've talked quite a bit about that, and we just got that I think from the Amazon. The linear drain, you can get just the top stainless steel piece, but then also inside of that there's like a plastic sort of basin piece that has where the drain comes out, and so it's kind of like a two-piece kit, if you will. That makes it really easy. You drill the hole, you kind of set that thing down in there. Now you do kind of have to create a bit of a frame for that thing to sit down because it's sloped towards the middle and stuff, so it's got some sloping. So if you order one, you'll look at it and you'll see you kind of got to do a little carpentry to get that to sit down there nice and flush. It's not a big deal, but it is something you'll need to think about. But then you just hook your plumbing fittings right onto that. And so I used, I think, like an 1.5 inch rubber coupling with the pipe clamps on each side, and it came into an 1.5 inch drain pipe. From there, I went into a 1 inch P-trap, and the P-trap's pretty important because it keeps any of the gases or the moistures or smells or whatever it is from your tank coming back up into the van. So the P-trap traps a little water in there and keeps that from coming back. So you want to do that. And then from there, it drains right into my tank. I have a 10-gallon tank. I think, again, there's nothing special about my tank, but I think it's from Rec Pro. I think there will be a link in the description on that. And then coming out of the tank is so that's kind of the drain side of it. Is now we're starting to talk about the pressure side of my system. So that's where the water gets pumped out of my water supply and goes back up to the shower head. So on that side of the system, I use primarily 1/2 inch PEX pipe. I do have some flexible pipes in a couple places up to the system per the recommendation of the pump manufacturers and stuff due to vibration. They prefer not to have the rigid pipe, they prefer to have the flexible pipe, and so I did meet those specifications. I use mostly shark bite fittings, and those things are pricey. I have a SureFlow pre-pump filter, and basically so when the water comes out of the tank, that keeps any material from getting into my pump. It's actually a pretty coarse filter, so it's not, and really won't do anything in terms of filtering the water to the level we need for the recirculating shower. It just protects the pump. I have a C-Flow 3-gallon pump. Pump cuts off perfectly, and I have great water pressure. I do recommend that you go with a bit of an oversized pump, given that you're pumping it through this filtration system that I'm about to tell you about. Coming out of the pump, the first thing I have is a spiral down filter, either a 50 or 40 micron filter. And basically that's going to take out any of the big stuff before it gets to my next filtration systems, my cartridge filters. The nice thing about the spiral down filter is it has a little valve on the bottom of it. So I can just open that valve and let the water go down through there, and it'll kind of, it's a bit of a self-cleaning filter. It's not perfect, but it's a bit of a self-cleaning filter. Now the next set of filters that I have 3 the big blue cartridges. Now there's 2 kinds. There's the normal ones, which are the long ones, but I got the short fat ones because mine's under chassis, and obviously I have space issues and clearance issues, and those work better for me. Now inside those I have a 20 micron sediment cartridge, and then the next one is a 5 micron sediment cartridge, and then the last one is a 5 micron charcoal filter. And those seem to work pretty well for removing all the solids. But the soap that you use and the shampoo you use, so I should say the amount of time that you're able to use this between changing your water and cleaning your filters is all going to vary depending on how much soap and shampoo and those types of things you use. The first 2 filters, the 20 micron and the 5 micron filter, remove, to my knowledge, all or most of that. I haven't been finding that any of that stuff is making it to my charcoal filter. The charcoal filter removes some of the odors, the chlorine, some of the other things like that. And then the last line of defense that I have in the system before it comes out the shower head is the UV light. And the UV light is what kills, but like the bacteria, the E. coli, the stuff like that. UV light is extremely important in the recirculating system. So the water comes out pretty clean, actually. Now I haven't had that water tested. Some of the perfumes in the soaps and shampoos over time will start to come through in the water. So we've been able to just pull the filters out of our cartridge system, rinse those off real good, and put those back in and flush the system. We're right back good to go. Again, we do that depending on how much shampoo and how often we shower. But just as a general rule of thumb is, when we fill our water tank, we have a 30-gallon fresh water tank. When we empty our gray water tank, we're usually at a facility, a dump site, a water fill station. We go ahead and dump our shower water. So when we fill our fresh water tank, we refill our shower water. And so we can get multiple shower uses out of one fill, but we change that water out every time we top off our water tank, so we're not going more than a week on that water. But maybe once a month we actually pull those filters out. So unscrew the cartridge, pull the filter out, rinse it out real good, clean it out, and then put that back in. That seems to keep the system going pretty good. The specifics on that, the maintenance of it, still working out the details on. But what I will tell you, when we put fresh water in there, the first shower, the second shower, the third shower, and if we take back-to-back showers, there's really no difference. Feel comfortable that we get great showers out of there for a week. And I think the important thing is that it's not a Navy shower, right? So you turn the water on there and you can stay in there as long as you want. On demand water heater that we have, a nice long hot shower, and trust me, it's a really nice system. But it does require some maintenance, and I don't want to downplay that. It absolutely takes maintenance. You can't run this thing forever. It's just not a forever shower, but it is something that you can really stretch your water usage out and also cut down on the amount of water you carry. I mean, I'll tell you guys that water is one of the heaviest things we have to carry. I think it's 8.5 pounds per gallon or something like that. So this allowed us to have a solid shower in here and not have the weight issue. The one other thing that I've talked a little bit about, I've mentioned quite a bit in the video, is the hot water heating system. So I'll talk about that right now. So the hot water heating system that we have it's an S-bar hydronic heater. There are other manufacturers other than S-bar that make hydronic heaters, so I'm not necessarily endorsing S-bar. I'm just telling you that's what I use. My heater is connected to my diesel tank, and so it sips diesel from my tank, and so when I turn my thermostat on my heater, it kicks on, it'll sip diesel out, and then there's a diesel burner in that. And this thing is, I mean, it's a small little heater. It's about this big, a little bigger than my head. No, probably, I have a big head. Probably not quite as big as my head. And it mounts under the van. Diesel burner comes on, and it'll heat glycol, or think about like an antifreeze, through the system. So it's got a pump on it. Glycol goes in through that diesel burner, it gets heated, and then when it comes out, it gets up to, it's 190 degrees. Once we turn that on, it takes about 5 minutes for it to get up to temperature. So the glycol circulates through. We have a 3/4 inch tubing system that runs underneath the van. It goes through a heat exchanger, so it's kind of like a radiator. So that glycol circulates through there, and there's a bunch of layers of metal or whatever, and it heats those foils up, those coils up or foils up, and then it comes out. And then in another closed loop, your water goes through there. So the two never touch, but they both make contact with the different side of those metal plates or those metal coils. And so that's what heats the water. So it just goes through there. So it's basically an on-demand heater. So we have two of those heat exchangers. So the same fluid goes through two different heat exchangers, and that's essentially what heats our water. Our water gets hotter than you can stand. We put it on a timer. So let's say we put it on there for 30 minutes. It'll keep that the glycol at 190 for 30 minutes. And so as long as you if you set the timer for an hour, you have hot water for an hour. And I'll show you our system. You probably are. Okay guys, I'm in the shower, and trust me, you do not want to see the unedited version of this. But Snow was in here for about 30 minutes. I couldn't get her out of the shower. And so yeah, the water pressure is kicking. It's really good. Just to give you guys a little visual of the shower. So this is one of the Stowette sliding doors. This is the other one. The back side, we have storage of towels up here. The composting toilet is behind this towel. We put this towel up just to keep water from getting there. And then here you can see we have the shower and some soap and shampoo. The linear drain where the water drains is right there. And we have a nice little bench, a squeegee for cleanup, and a little scrubby right there. But I just want to give you an idea. So this is cold is to the wall, hot comes this way. Now I got to stand back because this is probably going to burn me if I get too hot. This is all the way hot, so I'm going to turn that at hot, see if you guys can see the steam. Ow! But I can't touch that right now. And let's see if you can see some steam. Maybe not, but trust me, it's too hot to touch right now. I think we're starting to see the steam come in here pretty quick. So I'm going to turn. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed the episode on recirculating shower. Again, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell. And also join us on the next one where we'll be discussing the layout and planning of a van build. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you on the next one.